Hi, it's the old Duffer. Been a bit lapsed on doing videos recently. We've been really busy. Quite a few things going on. A couple of interesting things come in, I'll show you. That is a 1934 Lister A with a very corroded top. I've had to regrind the valves, I've had to recut a valve seat and grind the valves. We've now got compression. The mag is dead as a dodo. No surprise there. We're going to get it going. It has its original document tube on it, which quite often disappears. So we're going to do quite a lot with this thing in various stages. I'm going to get the crankcase door open, have a look inside, and I'll get my little action camera in there and see what we can see. But I'm going to turn the camera around and show you a few other things we've got. Now, I used to ride in trials until I was about 17, and now I'm 57. And I haven't ridden in 40 years on a trials bike. I ride all the time on the road. But that is a 1983 203 Honda TL125, very like a TLR, which came the TLR 200 and 250s. All runs and rides, everything works. We're going through the process of getting it registered at the moment. And then I'll take all the lights off and that, because they're all original and I don't want to bash them. I'm probably going to do the big bore kit and the big valve head on it. And the forks need hard chroming and regrinding, and I'll probably put modern internals just to give me all the help I can get, because I've obviously got a lot of practicing to do. And the other thing that has come in and we bought, if I swing the camera around to here, now we do all the plastics. That is a Yamaha 350 four-wheel drive quad with no spark, has reverse high and low ratio gears, proper agri quad. Again, we're going to get it sparking and running, and then look at getting it registered. I think it's a 99 or a 2000 model year. We've got to get it dated. We're in the process of getting the TL dated. So yeah, been really busy. And if I swing you around again, over there, that is an 88-inch rear tub we've just built for a customer. And we're just about to start building another one for another customer. So you've had everything in. We've been pretty busy. So what I'm going to do, I want to get set up and get my little action camera around here, and we'll get the crankcase door open and have a peep inside and see what we've got. Right, down into the murky depths. If I get my light in there behind it, you should be able to see. See those oil rings in there? That ring rotates when the crank's running, and it takes the oil out of that groove down there on oils of crank main bearings. So if these are full of sludge, which they usually are, this one isn't too bad, you don't oil things properly, and it works on a splash mechanism. The big end splashes it up into that, I don't know if I can actually see it on the camera, that sort of tray in there, you just see. And that's how they're lubed. I'm going to wash this one out. Normally we'd strip them down, but there's no play in anything. So I'm just going to clean it all out, get all the muck out of it, and refill it with fresh oil, as we've now got compression. But somebody obviously at some point decided to run an extra tank, because obviously this is seriously corroded. This is what happens when you put a Nitram fertilizer bag over the top of it and it gets wet because of our lovely wet climate, and they just corrode. And there's nothing you can do about it, but I am toying with the idea of rolling up a steel angle ring and bolting it with sealer in there, so I can put a top on it and take a pipe out to radiator and convert this to radiator cooling and electric start. We may go down that road. I've also put an adapter in to run 14mm plugs. 18mm plugs today don't last, well, no plugs last on these stationary engines because they don't run hot enough to get rid of all the chemicals within the unleaded fuel. So if you put an adapter in, you can run much cheaper, longer reach plugs that are £1.50 and not £5 a pop, and it doesn't hurt so much. So that's why we do that. But I'm going to set this thing up and start getting the gloop out of it, and we'll come back shortly. Right, now while that's draining, and it is actually coming out, it's a bit yuck, but it is liquidish, and I will wash that out as we go. I thought I'd come over here to the TL. Now, this is covered 17,000 miles, allegedly. You just about see that. I say everything works. It's a non-battery electric, so the engine needs to be running for the light and the horns to work, but everything works. It came with brand new tyres on it. Unfortunately, not the tubeless type, and I want to change the back wheel to a tubeless type. So, and the spokes need changing anyway. They're quite corroded. They're okay to use, but if you're going to do it, do it. It's in really lovely condition. I will take the exhaust off and put the Sammy Miller type on or something like that, because that exhaust is perfect, and I'm going to fall off, and I don't want to damage it. So I'd rather take all the lights off, exhaust off, and set it up for trials. This is a new front mudguard, that one's broken. But everything works, and it runs like a Swiss watch. I've got bigger foot pegs coming. Obviously you can see these are not great. They're a bit bent. So I've got KLR 650 pegs, which are quite a lot bigger, which means I will have to leave the spring off, because at the moment this clears that peg. I'm pretty damn sure that when I put the KLR on, because they're much longer and wider, it will hit. So you need to take the return spring off so you can flip it up out of the way, get it going. It goes first kit, hot or cold. So it runs absolutely beautifully. If it's an 82, it won't need an MOT because it'll be 40 years old. If it's an 83, because it's not quite 40 years old, it will need an MOT. The golden rule is for registering, even if it doesn't run, it's easier if you don't need an MOT if they don't run. Don't take it apart, remove anything until you've got the paperwork, because the DVLA may just want to inspect it. And if that's the case, they expect something that's a box of bits. It needs to be a complete vehicle or bike, whatever it is, but it doesn't have to run. So just remember that. Do the boring paperwork bit first while you're trying to source parts or whatever you're doing. I mean, the only bit here that's actually busted is this. Maybe I had to get a good second-hand one, maybe I had to repair it, not sure yet, but that's obviously coming off anyway. So I can deal with it at a later date. But I'm pretty sure this is a TLR version, or the TL125R, because if you look at a TLR 200, they look just like that. And this is a Japanese domestic market bike that we never got here. So yeah, really lucky find. You know, it needs new rear shocks as well. They do actually work, but I think they're weeping a bit, and their rusties on nick. Yeah, the shafts are pitted. You can see, with the camera pick it up, so they want replacing, but they do actually still work. I have ridden it, I've been messing about trying to practice static balancing, which is not an easy task, especially when you haven't ridden a trials bike for 40 years. But we'll get there. And this over here is quite interesting. It's obviously been fairly knocked about and abused. Got the heavy duty, what's it that's about to break off, and that's coming off anyway. And whatever was on here is not there. Need to sort that out. But it turns over free, and somebody's been spending money on this because it's got brand new starter motor in there. It's got new starter solenoid. They're obviously trying to get it going, and the oil in it is clean as you like. So we'll try and download a wiring diagram, kind of sort of similar. Unfortunately, Mr. Kremper's been in here as well, so we need to do a bit of sorting out. But we'll get it sorted, get it running, and once we're happy that it's, a goer to proceed, we will get it dated via the Japanese Vintage Motorcycle Club. They're very good. I think it's 55 quid now if you're a non-member to get vehicles dated, and a little bit less if you're a member. And they have different guys dealing with different, like Yamaha, Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki, different people dealing with each mark. So we're on to do the TL first. I will be riding it in competition, probably not till next year, but I've done all the bits and done plenty of practicing, so at least I don't look a complete turnip and smash myself up too badly. And on the quad, I'm hoping that we can get it registered as an agri quad, because it should, because it's got a high and low ratio gearbox and it's full shaft drive. This isn't your road burner quad, this is a proper agri type quad, so I'm hoping to get that resolved. And over here there are the plastics. Well, we have them all in the seats in good order and all the rest of it. There's even some tools, there's a puncture repair kit in that just in case bag in the toolbox. It used to be blue by the looks of it. I don't know whether it's a Big Bear or it's a something else. We do a bit of digging on that, but yeah, watch this space, as I say, on that, and we'll get back to the Lister A shortly. Right, I don't know whether the camera will pick this up. There you go. We have chunks under the oil, and all you've got that splashes it around, the oil around it, that dipper on the bottom of the big end there. So chunks are not required, so we're going to get in there with a rag and some brake cleaner and just wash that lot out and clean it all up, and then refill it with fresh. Everything else is freed off. I've freed off the governor linkage, which is a bit rusty in there. My thought is, if we go radiator cooling, is to get this flywheel off and move it out and put a V-belt pulley behind it with a radiator this side. You can't do that side because of the governor. So and it's also got a belt pulley, and this is the starter side. So move it out an inch, put a pulley in and a little fan, and maybe a classic mini car radiator would do. I've done it before that way. The mag being its toast, these are horrible. Rotating points, rotating armature, whereas the later mags had static points and a rotating magnet with a static core. Much better idea. This will cost probably 300 quid or more to have it rebuilt. I will probably put a later mag on it to get it going. I may even just put a mag body with points, or even a Hall effect trigger, so you can run point breakerless ignition 12 volts to a coil. If we're going to electric start mod it, because as I'm getting older, swinging these engines over is getting harder and harder. And we might actually put this one back in service. So again, watch this space on it. It is really lovely. I know it's a bit damaged, but you know, considering it's what, 70 years old? More than that, isn't it? 90 years old. Yeah, 90 years old. 89 years old, something like that. Yeah, so it, you know, it's got a crack in the old exhaust manifold. Oh look, they've corroded off, so we'll get that off. You can get valves and exhaust manifolds and bits like this from stationary engine parts, I'm pretty sure now. That's the same mag drive chain as a Lister D, same sprocket as well actually. So yeah, good clean up and sort out some sort of source of ignition and it will fire up, I'm pretty damn sure of it. Of course these carbs don't have a float bowl. They have a reservoir with a, I don't know, I'll get my torch, I don't know whether you can see it. You see that? It's a level tube. So basically, that tube there, one with the cap on it, it's got a little slit in it. Fuel comes up from the fuel pump, and it gets to the level of the level tube and goes back down to the tanks. So there's no float for the ethanol to destroy all the solder on. The carburetor needs a damn good clean. And the brass pump down there, we will probably remove that. If we're going to run 12 volt ignition and starter motor for a project I've got in mind, we'll probably put a little classic clicky-clacky style pump and a bigger tank underneath, get rid of that, so that we don't, because ethanol and brass and copper and solder don't mix very particularly well. I'll keep all the bits we take off and put it back to work, because I restored one of these a few years ago. It's a proper tank hauled one, and it 2/3 load, because this is 3.5 horsepower. So if you're going to generate electricity, it's 2 horsepower per kilowatt, so you're only going to get about 1500 watts out of it. And I was running it at over a kilowatt, and you could run it all day, and it would use about 3.5 litres of fuel. So considering how old these are, they're not that bad on fuel. And as I live off grid and have to have backup battery charging for when the wind doesn't blow, and the winters we don't get any sunshine in the winter. If you live in the UK, you'll know what I'm talking about. I currently run a Honda electric start running a truck alternator, which works, charges loads of batteries up a tree. If I make this electric start, not only is it just chugging away quietly, you can shut these right up so you can't hear them. It's just nice to use something that's actually here, and it won't actually use really any more fuel than the Honda. The Honda is running on LPG, but that's gone up a lot. So I'm not so sure the price difference is actually going to do us any favours. So let's get this thing up and running anyway in the next few weeks. We'll come back once I've desludged it and cleaned it out, and then I'll look and see what mag bodies I've got kicking around. I used to do all my own mags, but I've sold all my spare bodies off, or most of them. I've kept a few for jobs because I'm sort of not doing it anymore. So we'll have to see what we can conjure up. I might even have to make my own unit with a Hall effect trigger inside that just sits where the mag is now with the chain drive on it, using roller bearings and stuff, and that would work if I'm going to run 12 volt ignition. So yeah, shut up my lad, and get on with it. So we'll come back when I've cleaned that snot out. Right, cleaned out as best as I can get them, you can see in there. And when you've cleaned all this out, you must fill that groove back up with oil, because that's all that lubricates the mains, and I've given the big end a good glug. It's not going to be started soon, but and that there is your oil level. That is it. They hold very little, all these engines. That goes on the top, and the amount of times I've seen these, it shows any engine where it's got one bearing up in the air, i.e. the engine's not sat level. Now you can get away with a little bit, but some of these are so bad sometimes that the oil doesn't run uphill, so you're going to seize the top bearing, and I've seen it happen, and the engine seizes up and they cook the top bearing. And these are white metal bearings, so huge, great long crank bearings, and they're white metal, so you can make a right mess. But I'm going to carry on cleaning the outside of this up. I'm not going to jet wash it. I'll just get a rag with some paraffin on and wipe it off, and we'll call that it for this video. I will bring you back when we get on with the TL, once we've got all the paperwork in, the boring bit, and got it registered, because I do want to rebuild the wheels with new spokes, and obviously the rear wheel needs to be tubeless type so I can run modern tubeless tyres. So we'll call that it for now, and we will see you in the next one.